These are 7 lessons that I learned about women as a Playboy. Starting with the first one, which is going to be women treat men completely differently based on who they are. So things like attraction, how their body looks, status, all those factors have a massive influence on how a woman will treat one man, and she'll treat another man completely differently based off how she perceives him on those things as well. So I have a great example. When I was in Norway about 6 months ago, I went to the club and I was going up to talk to a girl, and I saw she was with this friend group and there was one guy trying to talk to her, but I didn't care. I went up to her anyways, introduced myself, and as soon as I did, she pushed this dude out the way. I'm not exaggerating. She genuinely pushed him because it was a booth. There was a table kind of blocking me and her a little bit, and she wanted to get closer to me, so she moves this guy out the way, grabs my arm, pulls me over him, has me sit down next to her, and then sits on my lap and instantly starts kissing me. I'm not making this shit up. It was crazy. I was in disbelief myself. And I was like, why'd you do that to that guy? Later, I asked her, I was like, that was fucked. And she was like, oh, he was ugly. I didn't like him, but you're so attractive. I want you. I want to go home with you tonight. I was like, holy shit. That was one of the most ruthless things I've seen a girl do. So the way that you are perceived in terms of your attraction, your body game, your muscle, your status, all the things that you have going for you, your style, completely alters how a girl will change you. So it's so important that you really level yourself up if you want to have the most success with girls. And guys, I built every single one of you my Playboy Secrets guide, breaking down all the things that I can't share on YouTube because I'll get banned, and that's going to be completely for free. It's the first thing in the description below. And now the second lesson is that you can sleep with genuinely any girl if the timing is right. See, this was something that I just didn't believe when I was younger. When I was younger and I didn't have success for the first 19 years of my life, I thought there were certain girls which were just unattainable. These were girls in my school that were like the hot girls. And looking back on it now, these girls really weren't shit. Compared to when I came to Scandinavia for the first time ever, when I just turned 20, I completely transformed my life. I leveled up my confidence, my social skills. I developed body game, and I went to my mom's hometown, so it's a really small town, and I quickly got to know everyone there. And the hottest girl in town, at least in my opinion, I ended up kissing one night. And we were about to leave, but she got sick right before and wasn't able to make this happen. So I never ended up getting with her, but the timing was right then. And then I came back the next year and I tried again, but she kind of moved on. She had some guys she was seeing and kind of had a situationship with. And I've tried every year. I've tried to put it out there, not trying too hard, but I've just been chatting to her, been a little friendly, and I've never gotten my chance again since. So the lesson here is that every girl you can genuinely get with if the opportunity is there, if the timing's right, if you're the best version of yourself, like we already mentioned before, that has such a big impact on how girls treat and perceive you. But if you are, you can genuinely get with any girl. It really doesn't matter who they are. These girls are very, very similar to us. They find guys attractive, they get nervous, they get butterflies, they have insecurities. These girls are a lot more similar, even the most beautiful ones. I am not exaggerating. Everyone kind of knows this girl in this small town to be the hottest girl there. And I was about to get with her. I kissed her, but I was about to go home and then she got sick and I lost that opportunity. It didn't come back since. But there's been girls in other towns in Sweden and Norway who I've gotten with who are genuinely so gorgeous. My younger self couldn't have even fathomed the fact that I was gonna get with these beautiful girls. And it's all very possible for every single one of you. You cannot let your mind hold you back and limit you from trying to go and get with the most beautiful girls, because if you don't even go and talk to them and try, you're rejecting yourself before they ever get the chance to. And a lot of the time, when you go after what you want, you'll actually end up getting it. And the third lesson I learned about women is that girls would rather be lied to if you say the right thing versus saying the wrong thing. So this is something you're only going to learn through experience. I've had to go out there and get my hand burnt on the stove so many times to learn this lesson, losing girls because I said the wrong thing, or just being around my boys and seeing kind of what works and how they played things off and had success or had failures. So let me give you an example. The second time I went back to Sweden, I'm having plenty of success. I brought my best friend who I grew up with from New York, and we're out there and we met this girl who we both agreed was a 10 out of 10, absolutely gorgeous, and we don't have the same type at all. So we're talking to her and she's got some controversial questions she's asking us because we're Americans, and in this small town they don't really meet too many Americans, and she was quite controversial about it. So she's asking about politics, about abortion, and I'm choking up because at this point I don't know what to say and I don't want to fuck it up. So I'm like, shit. And I'm not saying anything and I'm kind of stuttering and I'm like, And my boy comes in and he saves the day. And on the abortion question, he goes, it should be the girl's choice. And then she's best friends with him. And she's like, oh, Betty, she loves that. And I was like, how did you know what to say? And he's like, you just have to say what the girl wants to hear. I was like, fuck, that's a good, I was like, that's some good shit. How didn't I think of that before? So, just moving forward, I've always just said what the girl wants to hear in a situation like that. On a long-term basis, if you're going to develop a long-term meaningful relationship, you're going to have to tell, your true opinions. And it's much better to find someone who you really get along with and have these same, beliefs, values, political views, all this shit. But in a short-term setting, if you're just trying to have fun and sleep with girls, just lie. Why you gotta make it so much more difficult? Why you gotta be controversial and make people dislike you if you don't need to? It's one of the best things I learned is just, don't do dumb shit. Like, don't say stupid shit that's not gonna lead anywhere. There's so many times when I've gotten with girls who's asked me those questions, and because I played it off the right way, I ended up bringing them home and sleeping with them. And then I told them that shit later, and then, they really didn't care too much, but they were a little upset about it. So it's like, you gotta learn to play things the right way. And if you do, you'll have tons of success. But you got to learn to sharpen up, be a little more witty, be a little quick, say the right thing at the right time. And the fourth lesson is that girls hate to be ignored. I'm sure so many guys out here who aren't even Playboys can know this lesson. I mean, there must be some girl you left undelivered or opened on Snap or just didn't reply back to on text, and she absolutely got mad or lost her mind, or the next time she saw you, she was all upset about it. So, I mean, this one's pretty easy. I mean, I kind of learned this one when I was quite younger. There was one time when I was in my junior year and there was this girl pursuing me, and I really didn't even know how to use Snap. Like I said, I was a kind of a dummy when I was younger. So I would just leave, like once we would talk and we were done, I would just kind of leave her on open and not say anything. I was like, oh, the conversation's over. We don't need to talk anymore. No need to Snap. And then every time I would see her in person, she's like, why do you leave me on open? So many guys can relate to this one. Girls really, really hate to be ignored. So that is actually a weapon which you can use. I don't want to dive into this one too much, but it's just a really powerful lesson, which is that, ignoring a girl is one of the most impactful things that you can do, and it'll really drive her crazy. And the fifth lesson is that women love to develop an emotional connection. So you can be the most attractive man in the world, but if you're not able to connect with a woman emotionally, you're really going to struggle. So this takes me back to a time when I was in Norway once again. The first night that I went out, I went back with this girl to her after party, and we were talking, and she told me the thing that she finds the most attractive in a guy, besides attractiveness for him to get his foot in the door, is emotional intelligence. Like, if they're able to really develop an emotional connection. That is what she finds most attractive. And that night specifically, I met these dudes just at the club, so I was hanging out with them. I joined their friend group. We were going out chatting to girls, and we met this girlfriend group, and I really liked this girl. She was the hottest one in the group, and I kind of took her off to the side. We had our own table. We were getting some drinks together, and we really just talked. We connect over so many different things. We had this great, meaningful conversation, and she really liked that. Like the whole point where she said that's what she found so attractive. It's like you have to be physically attracted to get your foot in the door, but beyond that, women really want to be able to connect with you on a deeper level. You need to be able to talk and know what things to say and how to actually be smooth and charismatic, and that's all so important. So if you can't develop an emotional connection with a girl, you're really going to struggle. And the sixth lesson is that girls value fun just as much as they value attractiveness. So many people are so focused on being so attractive when they lack the personality to go behind it. Of course, if you're attractive and you got a great personality, you're gonna have tons of success. But just worrying about attractiveness is only one piece to the equation. There's been so many girls I've gotten with who have told me I'm not their typical type. But because I was just so fun, so high energy, so charismatic, it was such a good time, so positive, they just wanted to get with me. There's so many things that go into girls finding you attractive, and that is definitely one of them. And I'll give you a concrete example from a year ago. So I started casually seeing this girl who was 27, and at the time I was 22. And she also told me, just for reference, like later on, once we'd already been seeing each other, she's like, yeah, you're not my typical type. I'm like, what is your typical type? She's like, taller. I was like, fuck's sake. I'm not a lot of the time girls' typical type. There's times where I get with girls who are the same height or even taller than me, but just because I'm so confident, I'm so charismatic, I'm very outgoing, I'm very social, I can get with these girls. It really doesn't matter. But her, I really won her over when we were having conversation. I was asking her all these questions, kind of going back to that emotional intelligence point. We just had such a lively conversation. It was so interesting. She really liked that. She was giving me so many compliments, and she's not the type to give compliments. And she was just like, you're so entertaining. You ask these great questions. You draw up this like entertaining conversation. And she was just so engaged in it. And we'd been on a couple dates, and we really just got to like each other over those things. It's not all about the attractiveness. If you have yourself in order, right? If you're good with your attractiveness, if you done what you can for your face, you're developing your body, you're good. You don't need to worry about it. You also need to develop your personality, level up your social skills, your charisma, your charm, your energy as a whole, being a more positive, optimistic person. That's gonna count for so much. And the seventh and final lesson is that girls hate to be bored. You can do anything to a girl besides bore her. Make her upset, make her angry. It doesn't matter. Just do not bore her. This is why girls watch these criminal shows about axe murderers before bed. I can't tell you how many girls I've talked to, and I'm like, what kind of TV you like to watch? She's like, oh yeah, before bed I just like to watch these criminal shows and they're so interesting, or I like to watch the Kardashians, and that's all drama, right? So let me give you an example. That same girl from the previous story, the 27-year-old, in bed one night we were talking, and I started bringing up some more controversial subjects about like gender roles and like how I want my relationship to be. We'd already been with each other for a little bit. Going back to the point earlier of, not just saying the right thing. This does change with time. Once you've already got your hooks in a girl, you can start saying the things you want and forming her into the girl that you want her to be and seeing if she's a good fit for a relationship or things like that. But once again, it's not like early conversations, to make it clear. So we start talking about gender roles and, cleaning and cooking, and she starts getting triggered. She was getting all mad. She got real mad at me. She was getting snappy. She had a real snappy attitude. So she could raise her voice. She was real snappy. I just start laughing. And then she's even madder. She's like, why are you laughing? And I'm just like, you're cute. And I played it off, and I was charming and charismatic with it. I'm like, you're cute when you're mad. And then she smiled, and then I like smoothed out the conversation. We moved on from it, and then it was all good. But, you can do anything. You can talk about anything. Just don't bore a girl. Don't be the same guy interviewing her, asking her the same questions, having no personality, no opinions on anything. That's just so boring, right? You need to have this charismatic, lively energy about you. You need to be, a theater, a drama, like the shows, right? You need to be entertaining. That's the last and final lesson that I want to leave you with. Once again, guys, I made every single one of you my Playboy secrets. That's completely for free. It's the first link in the description below.